Somewhere in the Arizona desert right now, there are over 200 turboprop aircraft sitting in dead silence. Engines, cold doors, sealed rows and rows of them stretching as far as you can see. They once flew thousands of hours. They connected remote towns to the rest of the world. They carried real people to real places. And then one day they just stopped. No final flight, no ceremony, no announcement. So what actually happens to them next? Because here is what most people don't know: the journey doesn't end when the flying does. These aren't jumbo jets, turboprops, or the small propeller-driven workhorses of regional aviation, the ones connecting tiny mountain towns to major airports that bigger jets can never reach. Humble, reliable, and quietly essential to millions of people every single day. The ATR-72, the Bombardier-8. These are the planes that fill the gap between a car journey and a full-size jet, and for decades they've done that job without anyone really noticing. But nothing flies forever. Here is something most passengers never think about: an aircraft doesn't get retired because it stops flying. It gets retired because the math stops working. Every year an older turboprop stays and service maintenance costs go up. Spare parts get harder to find. And meanwhile, newer, more fuel-efficient aircraft are sitting in a showroom ready to do the same job for less money. Airlines also change their strategies. Routes grow, passenger numbers increase. And when that happens, a faster jet starts to make more business sense than a turboprop, even if the turboprop is still technically flying fine. Economics decides the fate of an aircraft long before the engines give out. So what happens the moment an airline decides it is done with a turboprop? It does not go to a junkyard, not yet. The reason is simple: dry air preserves aircraft. Low humidity means almost zero rust or corrosion. When the aircraft arrives, it goes through a careful preservation process. Engines are sealed, systems are protected, and then the aircraft simply waits. At this point, no one knows exactly what comes next. It could fly again, it could be sold, or it could be taken apart piece. For many turboprops, retirement from one airline is just the beginning of a whole new chapter somewhere else. Think about it: why would a small airline in Kenya or Nepal buy a 30 million jet when they can get a perfectly capable turboprop for a fraction of that cost? It's not glamorous, but it works, and for regional routes in Africa, South Asia, or South America, it works brilliantly. Are perfect for short routes. They can land on shorter, less developed runways. They don't need the massive ground infrastructure that jets require. So what one airline sees as outdated, another airline sees as exactly what they need. Passengers board. The engine startup in a turboprop that flew for 20 years with one airline quietly begins its second life, often on the other side of the world. Not every turboprop gets that second chance. Some are simply too old, too worn, or too expensive to bring back to airworthy condition. For those aircraft, the next step is dismantling. But this isn't destruction. It's something closer to surgery. A team of trained technicians goes through the aircraft, systematically removing every part that still has value. The engines, especially if they're in good condition, get overhauled and sent back out into the world. An engine that flew 40,000 hours with one airline gets bolted onto a completely different plane and flies another 40,000 more. Nobody on that new flight has any idea. The avionics, the landing gear, the hydraulic systems, all of it finds a new home. Airlines and maintenance companies around the world depend on this parts market to keep other aircraft flying. So even though this particular turboprop will never take off, again, pieces of it are still up in the sky right now as you watch this. When there's nothing left to salvage, the aircraft enters its absolute final stage. The wings come off first, then the fuselage gets cut into sections. The aluminum is separated, melted down, and sent off to become something else entirely. It might end up in a car, a building, a bridge, or, and this is the part that stays with you, it might end up in a brand new aircraft flying the same routes it flew decades ago, just in a completely different form. The same metal, a new sky, a new life. An aircraft that once carried passengers across mountain ranges, reborn as something nobody would ever recognize, quietly flying again without anyone knowing its history. But not every aircraft gets this orderly ending. Some are simply left behind. In storage yards around the world, rows of old turboprops sit abandoned. No buyers came. No parts were worth pulling the cost of doing. Anything with them outweighed the value of what was left, so they stay year after year. Dust settles on the windows, paint peels away in the sun, the landing gear slowly sinks into the earth. These aircraft once carried thousands thousands of passengers. They once meant something to someone, a first flight, a journey home, a business trip, a reunion. They stand in silence. From carrying thousands of people across the sky to becoming forgotten metal shells slowly reclaimed by the desert. That's the part nobody talks about. The story of a turboprop aircraft doesn't end when it stops flying. Some get a second life, some get taken apart, some are reborn, and some are simply left behind. Every path is different, but every aircraft has one. Next time you see a small propeller plane land at a regional airport, take a second look, because one day it too will face that same silent goodbye and begin a journey that's just as fascinating as anything it ever flew.